Hey guys, so welcome back to another Friday Night Lore. I can safely say that the first episode ever, which went up last week, was pretty successful, having over 700 comments in less than a week's time. I'm glad that so many of you have come out in support of this new series, and I'm excited to bring you more. Without further ado, let's continue on with the only series that mixes Magic the Gathering lore with the physical cards that you can win, here on Friday Night Lore. To start today's episode, let's announce the winner of last week's Friday Night Lore. If you remember, last week's FNL topic was about the Elder Dragon Lord Silumgar on the plane of Tarkir. While many of you have asked me to go over the other remaining Dragon Lords in this series, I may just decide to release their stories throughout the week rather than waiting for each separate Friday. So I may not be giving away every dragon, but don't worry, you'll still get their lore. Now, for the big reveal. The winner of last week's Friday Night Lore and the new owner of this Dragon Lord Silumgar card is Jarrod Fox. Congratulations to the user named Jarrod Fox. You should check your private messages on YouTube and look for a message from me. In it, you'll find the things that I need to be able to send you this card. Don't forget guys, these winners are chosen randomly using a number generator, so keep on entering each week to test your luck. For this week's episode of Friday Night Lore, I wanted to look at the most requested card from all of you who commented on last week's video. I'll say hands down the most requested single card from last week was another Dragon Lord, a Tarka. Since I had just made a Dragon Lord the topic of the previous FNL, I have decided to mix it up a little bit. So today, let's start looking at some of the former Khans of Tarkir and how the events of the story arc has changed them. For this week's Friday Night Lore, let's look at the story of Zurgo Bellstriker. So, in the original timeline of Tarkir, Zurgo Helmsmasher was a powerful and respected orc warrior among the ranks of the Mardu Horde. Before he became the Khan, or the leader of this clan of nomadic fighters, Zurgo was nothing more than a brawler rider looking to leave his mark on the battlefield. Zurgo was certainly able to leave a lasting impression during any conflict of the Mardu. The orc was noted as being the size of 2 horde horses stacked atop one another, and on the open battlefield, Zurgo was sure to cast a formidable shadow. Yet, for Zurgo to climb the ranks of the Mardu, it would take a cataclysmic event and a little help from another famous Mardu figure, Sarkhan Vol. During a raid against the Sultai clan, Zurgo and Sarkhan were fighting side by side along with a number of other riders. It would be the events which took place in this battle which would catapult Zurgo to the seat of the Khan. While this fight was reaching its pinnacle of intensity, Sarkhan Vol experienced the ignition of his Planeswalker Spark and unleashed a torrent of dragon fire. Now this fire obliterated the enemy forces, but Sarkhan had little control over this new power of his. As a means of collateral damage, Sarkhan ended up killing numerous members of his own clan during his transition. Zurgo was barely spared by the flame's destructive power, but many of his comrades were not as lucky. The orc saw this attack as an act of the highest betrayal possible to his people, and so, he decided to execute Sarkhan right there and then. When Zurgo finally made his way over to Sarkhan's location, the Planeswalker had already vanished to the blind eternities. Zurgo had no other choice than to declare his victory over the Sultai and curse Sarkhan's name, promising vengeance on his old comrade should he ever return to the Mardu lands. When Zurgo returned triumphant in his battle, the other members of the Horde treated him as a hero, calling him the one who survived the Dragonfire. With his newfound popularity growing, Zurgo was easily awarded the mantle of Khan to the Mardu Horde. As the Horde's new ruler, Zurgo, who received his battle name Helmsmasher for completely crushing a man's skull through his helmet, followed the laws which were laid down by the previous Khans to the Mardu. He led raids on the other clans while consulting seers and scouts to ensure his riders had optimal terrain for their swift, blitzkrieg tactics. He was a great ruler for the clan, up until the day when his most hated enemy returned to Tarkir. This of course, being Sarkhan Vol. Sarkhan had returned to his homeland trying to seek a renewed interest in dragons, but what he found was a new friend in the Jeskai Khan, Narset. Zurgo heard of their travels through his scouts, and he immediately set out to seek his vengeance on this traitor. When he finally caught up with the pair, he followed his Mardu instincts and rushed to face them in battle. Now, Narset was no pushover, and Sarkhan, being a planeswalker, could certainly hold his own in a fight, but Zurgo's rage made him blind to the dangers. Narset was the first to meet the orc in conflict, and rather than asking for Sarkhan's help, she demanded that he continue his travels to the tomb of Ugin. Feeling confident in her ability to deal with the Mardu Khan, Sarkhan reluctantly agreed and left his friend to fend for herself. The two Khans were meeting each other perfectly in their fight, Zurgo's superior strength being matched by Narset's superior speed and discipline. In the long run, Narset would have eventually proved victorious, but the Jeskai Master became distracted and Zurgo pounced on this opportunity. Seeing an opening in her defenses, the orc landed a fatal blow on the Jeskai leader. Seeing his friend die in battle defending him, Sarkhan became mad with grief. Yet, he left the orc behind, choosing to enter the dragon's tomb rather than seek his immediate vengeance. With that choice, Sarkhan was able to go back into Takir's past and change its history forever. If you want to know more about Sarkhan's role in all this Tarkir timey-wimey stuff, you can check out his full story here, but for now, let's just see how this meddling in the past impacted Zurgo Helmsmasher. When Sarkhan made it back to this new Tarkir, with his actions altering the entire timeline, he finds his old clan of the Mardu, only now, they don't go by this name, and are offended by Sarkhan's use of the word Khan, even in his own name. He first meets with an old goblin ally of his, previously named Ankleshanker, and now known as Vile Smasher. At first, she doesn't recognize the man, but after he transforms into a dragon, the goblin submits to the Planeswalker and admits defeat. All of this commotion caused the Herald of the Dragon Lord Kolagon himself to investigate the disturbance. Sarkhan was shocked to see a smaller, more frail version of Zurgo appear before him. Although this was not the great warrior figure he had grown to despise in his own time, it was still Zurgo all the same, and he wished to end his life. After the exchange of some dialogue between the two, Vile Smasher explained that Zurgo was not Helmsmasher, but rather known as Bellstriker. One look at the blade Zurgo carried confirmed this to Sarkhan. It was dull and overly large, perfect for striking the side of a huge metal bell. Zurgo Bellstriker took their banter as a sign of disrespect and raided his dull weapon to fight this intruder. Looking at what Zurgo had become, Sarkhan actually felt pity for the fallen orc. He took to his dragon form and flew off, feeling satisfied in the vengeance time has bestowed on his enemy. While Zurgo Bellstriker was a far cry removed from his previous station in life, he still served a great purpose in this new world. He is the Herald of the Dragon Lord Kolagon, and one of the most important mortals to this dragon. He is so close to this dragon that he actually sleeps next to it, always alert to his master's movements. Whenever the Dragon Lord would stir, it is Zurgo's job to sound the dragon bell, rousing the warriors to fight. Other than ringing the bell, it is also Zurgo's primary duty to attend to his Dragon Lord's whims. This often has the orc cowering to the might of the dragons and bending to their wills. But really, who else in this timeline wouldn't? Zurgo Bellstriker himself is actually a very adept fighter, just as he had been in the previous timeline. He even has his own group of followers who look at him as some sort of a leader among their non-dragon ranks. Since this world is ruled by dragons, Zurgo does not see himself as this role, yet he still tests the loyalty of these followers for the good of his Dragon Lord, oftentimes sending them on suicide missions just to test their resolve. So, there you go guys, the story of how Zurgo Helmsmasher became the lowly Zurgo Bellstriker. Now, it's time for all of you to enter for your chance to win this very aggro-y card. Remember, to enter, all you have to do is be a subscriber to this channel and comment on this video. The giveaway will run for the entire week, and the winner of this card will be announced at the beginning of next week's Friday Night Lore. So enter now, and you may find yourself the owner of this new Zurgo Bellstriker. Oh, and I'm still accepting donations for my Binge Across America project. If you want to know more and maybe help out, check out the link here or in the description below. As always, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Friday Night Lore, and I'll see you next time.